This is your announcer, Neil Patrick Harris. Welcome to the original theme park podcast, Coaster Radio. Here are your hosts, my close personal friends, Mike Collins and E.B.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the original theme park podcast. You are listening to Coaster Radio. My name is Mike. I am here with my friend E.B., ready to talk theme parks and thrill rides.
That's right, Mike. This is going to be another fun trip report episode of Coaster Radio where you and I will tell the story of our visit to Universal Epic Universe. So excited to have this show today.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I feel like this is the episode of all our trip report shows here from our Central Florida visit. This is the one that people are excited about most. Us getting out to Epic Universe, which is a park that, how long have we been talking about the park itself? I remember the very first aerial photographs of that land taken by Bio Reconstruct, and we started talking about what it could be, and then the very first ideas of what the different lands might be. And so getting to see it in person, I don't want to expose the lead of what we're going to talk about, but it exceeded my expectations. But there's a reason why maybe it exceeded the expectations. We'll get into that in the second half of the show.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So that is coming up in the second half of the show. Our visit to Epic Universe will review all of the rides and all of the fun. But first, Mike, let's start with our first drop.
If there is one thing that I hate about doing Coaster Radio, it is when news drops. And I'm talking about big news when it drops after we have already recorded an episode of the show.
And this is an example of that. That is so perfect because the news dropped, I think, hours after we recorded the show. Like it wasn't even, a couple of days after the podcast episode or something like that, or the same day as the podcast episode. It was hours, maybe minutes after we finished recording the podcast.
Yeah, and you and I used to record the show on Tuesday nights, but then we were getting burned by news stories that would happen on Wednesday. So we said, all right, let's move the podcast recording date to Wednesday night. And then that's been working pretty well. But then Six Flags decides to go ahead and drop a bombshell, probably the biggest news story of the year so far. Like you said, literally hours after we recorded last week's show. So now it feels like we're like a week behind on this story, but it's about the official sale of 7 Six Flags parks to EPR properties.
We knew something was happening, and I feel like most folks were confused when back in January, I think it was January 8 or 9, was when we found out about the U.S. Copyright Office having trademarks filed for these names. Enchanted Parks Worlds of Fun, Enchanted Parks this, Enchanted Parks that. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, Six Flags, why are they making these trademarks? Why are they applying for these new names? So when they made the sale, they could switch the names of the parks they just purchased. And they did. They purchased those parks.
Yeah. So EPR bought Six Flags La Ronde in Montreal, Six Flags St. Louis in Missouri. That was a surprising one. Six Flags Great Escape in New York. Michigan's Adventure in Michigan. We've always talked about that park and what might happen to it. Schlitterbahn Galveston in Texas, Valley Fair in Minnesota, another big one, and Worlds of Fun in Missouri. So those are the 7 parks that are now bought by EPR, and you wonder how Enchanted Parks is involved. Well, they are actually going to operate 6 of the parks, the 6 U.S. parks, and then another company called La Ronde Operations is going to open or operate La Ronde in Canada.
Yeah, this is huge news, like you said, Mike. First, we had Cedar Fair buying out Six Flags. And let's remember that Cedar Fair bought Six Flags, not the other way around, but then they decided to keep that name. And now here's Cedar Fair selling off the fair of Cedar Fair, which is Valley Fair.
Yeah, so interesting. Really interesting. I think that some people saw those parks as the ones that could possibly go. A lot of people upset that they didn't hold on to Six Flags America and include it in this sale, but that's another story for another time. But a lot of you are probably then wondering, well, what does this mean? If I bought Six Flags season passes for 2026, and I live near one of those parks, what happens to me? Well, according to Six Flags, all 7 of those parks are going to continue normal operations throughout 2026. That means that all passes bought this year and all memberships that have already been sold will be honored for the rest of 2026. So that includes this whole multi-park access thing they are doing for whatever style pass you had. So if you were planning on going to Valley Fair or Worlds of Fun, Michigan's Adventure, you can still go this year with the pass you already have.
That's right. And I think they've already said that Enchanted Parks, EPR, does have the right to use all of the Six Flags branding, all of the Six Flags names and things like that through 2026. So probably your GP is not going to know about this change until next season when they have the off season to make some changes and swap out signage and things like that. So, yeah.
Here's the interesting thing. So I would, if you've ever wondered, how much does 7 parks actually cost if you wanted to buy them? The purchase price for those 7 properties was $342 million.
That is not a lot of money.
No.
That feels like not a lot of money at all.
I feel like it should be at double that at minimum or triple that, right? For 7 parks. I mean, you're talking about some pretty big parks in there. I'm talking Worlds of Fun, Valley Fair, Michigan's Adventure is a big park, Six Flags St. Louis. There's a lot of assets across all those parks there. So I was surprised at that low number, although, I mean, maybe Six Flags is thrilled to have $342 million into their budget for this year. So
I'm just thinking about when they announced like they're building an overpass and it's like $304 million.
Yes, right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that doesn't seem like a lot of money anymore.
Yeah. Like I've worked for companies where the entire budget for the year is that, so like it's interesting. And also you wonder how like these Enchanted Parks and Laurent operations, well, 315 million of that 342 million came from EPR and the operating tenants, Enchanted Parks and Laurent operations.
Got it. Okay.
That's how all of that works. So interesting stuff. We are probably not going to see any differences in those parks this year, but going forward, 2027 and beyond, it'll be interesting to see what becomes of those parks. Do they improve? Do they get new attractions? Like I look at a place like Michigan's Adventure for years. We've been saying, oh, that park needs some breath of new life into it, new attractions and stuff. Will that happen? Or...
they're enchanted now, Mike. That's what's
right.
happen,
Yeah,
is they're enchanted. So they're hoping that maybe you'll just be like, oh. So it would be wonderful to see EPR going in and saying, okay, it's time to make these parks amazing and make Six Flags regret their decision. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't have a lot of faith in it. We don't know a lot about EPR and who's going to be doing, running things and how they're going to run things and what they're going to do and what their motives are and that sort of stuff. It's not like it's a Gene Staples or somebody who's, loves the parks. At least we don't know that information right now. I think the other question is, what is Six Flags now going to do with $342 million? And they've already said that they're going to be in a stronger position, committed to operational excellence. And what's it say here? New attractions, upgrade park infrastructures, enhance the guest experience, and introduce new innovations. So maybe we'll see 342 million going into those remaining. They have 34 parks now, I think. So that's 10 million a park.
Yeah.
Each park gets 10 million bucks. How about that?
I'd like to see that 10 million go into just making our day at the park better.
Paint.
Yeah. Paint. Sure. Yeah. Paint. Yeah. Yeah, or just help us out a little bit. Help us just have a better day. Have operations be a little bit better. Put money into that. Put money into paint. Like Evie said, sometimes it's nice to see a bright building instead of faded paint that's been there since 1993.
Yeah,
so
I don't think
help us out.
We talk about rides, right? We always want to get a big record-breaking roller coaster or whatever, but maybe just open the chicken stand at lunchtime.
Yes. Yeah,
right? Maybe that's all you need to do, and is to make the guest experience a little bit better. You don't have to necessarily build a giant roller coaster. Just have the parking lot cleaned up a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. Like put some money into training your employees, like or even like paying your employees a little bit more so that they're, excited to be there.
There you go. Yeah. How many of that 342 million is going to go to the front office? How many is it going to go to the crew on the ground? Right.
Right. But if we always talk about like, we love it when the crews are like dispatching trains every 45 seconds or something. The reason they do that is because they feel pride in their job. And one of the reasons they would feel pride in their job is if they're getting paid a decent wage. So, take a little bit of that money and give it to them, man, and watch how things improve from the bottom up.
There you go. I like that.
Let's see. It probably won't happen, but
well, there's more news than that, Mike, and I do want to get to the Epic Universe talk. So let's go ahead and get some quick hits.
Quick hits. Changes happening all over the place. Of course, Disney now has a new CEO getting ready to get on the job, but because he left his job as Disney Parks president, they needed somebody else. So we found out this week that they basically took the president of Disneyland, promoted him. So now he's in charge of parks worldwide. His name is Thomas Mazloum. Did I say that right? We were looking it up right before. Yeah, sure. Why not? I had no idea. He's from Austria, EB. How about that? I did not know that.
On the Bobby.
You got me with that same joke before we started the show, too. And I was like, oh, no, EB, that's not Australia. It's yeah, but wait, what is that from, though? That's from something.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, no, this is fine, right? I mean, who else would you want to run all of the parks than the guy who ran Disneyland, the most important park in the entire chain, the original park? Is that accurate, do you think, or would you rather have somebody who has experience with a larger park? Would you rather have the person in charge of Disney World, the giant resort property?
Yeah, at one point he was the vice president of operations at Disney World, so he knows about running something that big. He also knows about running the original park and stuff. But I'm curious because I've heard good and bad from the fans. I sort of went out there and just did a little research to see what the initial reaction was from Walt huggers, and some people are okay with it, but then others are pointing to a lot of things that he did at Disneyland, like cutting back magic hours, cutting back things that people received just normally as part of their Disneyland vacation. So he had a lot of cuts. And so they're like, oh, is that just going to be happening everywhere now? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he was thinking that would be best for Disneyland. Maybe he sees parks worldwide as something different. I have no idea, but it'll be interesting. Remember, it also all comes from the CEO too.
Sure,
the CEO sort of like sets an agenda. So we'll see how it goes. But somebody new in charge of the whole park. So that person either becomes a hero or what did they say, or lives long enough to become the villain. So,
lives long enough to become the villain. Oh no, that's Batman.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So
cool. All right.
So anyway, I love a good coaster POV when there's a new ride. And I guess this is the first new ride of 2026 to open, Barracuda Strike at SeaWorld San Antonio. Barracuda. And I like this ride, especially because of its first drop towards the water.
Pretty cool. This is a family invert. It looks great, I think. It does not go underwater, so you are being deceived by some of the artwork.
Yes. Yeah, the artwork has the track underwater.
It's underwater with coral. Sharks. Yeah. Flying through a coral reef with a bunch of sharks around it. No, did not happen. This is SeaWorld San Antonio, so good on you, SeaWorld San Antonio. This looks great.
Yeah, but I love it. That 90-foot drop going right down to the water is pretty great.
Yep.
And it seems to me, though, EB, this is like, I've been on the B&M invert at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. That was very family friendly, very swoopy. This, to me, at least from the video, looks a little more intense. It's like, one element after another, some pretty good speed, 44 miles an hour and stuff. But it looks maybe to be the most intense of all of these so far. I'd love to speak to somebody who's ridden it.
Yeah, it's pushing the edge of what you would call a family thrill coaster, isn't it? I mean, if we're topping out almost 100 feet tall, when do you stop being, we've talked about this before, when do you stop being a family thrill coaster and you're just a roller coaster?
Right, exactly. Staying, I guess, in sort of new things that are happening at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, a park I need to get back to. I have not been in years. I would love to get back there. There's some new rides there that I've not been on.
That'd be a fun meetup park.
That would be a great meetup park, actually, and kind of in an area that we haven't done anything in a while. So that would be good. But they announced this week on Instagram that they are designing a reimagined boardwalk for 2026. They say it's going to feature new rides, fresh eats, and a whole new shorefront vibe.
And this comes with an image of a beach with a boardwalk in the background with a postcard that shows what looks like a stereotypical American boardwalk. I mean, that looks like Rehoboth Beach, right? I mean, that looks like a boardwalk. I want to see what they do with this. This could be really cool.
Yeah. Because you remember, if you take a look at the Great Adventure map, there were a lot of rides that were in this boardwalk section before that are long gone. Because in 2024, they took out the Parachute Tower.
Yes.
They also took out Twister and the Green Lantern. So all that's left there are 2 upcharge rides, the Daredevil Dive and Slingshot. And then way in the back, you have to walk way back to this area. Superman Ultimate Flight is back there. That's it?
There's boardwalk space too?
Yeah.
Superman?
Yeah, I guess that's technically in that area. So I like that they're kind of taking a look, and who knows what new rides, though, because there wasn't any new rides announced for Great Adventure this year. So does that possibly mean maybe something coming from Six Flags America?
Do they have a Wild Mouse? Because that's the one they packed up.
Yeah,
They could bring that Wild Mouse up there and then plunk that down with a couple of flats. That'd be a great fit for a boardwalk theme.
Yeah. Where did that Nebulas go from?
Six
Flags America. Like, could that
everybody
just be brought
needs
up?
one of those?
Yeah, right.
Do they have one of those?
I'm sure.
At Adventure?
They had a lot of flats. Yeah, I don't think so. But they had some flats at Six Flags America that that's a 4-hour drive up the highway. So anyway, that's just an idea. Who knows? But I like
the roads.
that.
Maybe you'll see them on a truck.
Yeah, right. Everybody keep your eyes open as you're going up there. Muppet Vision 3D, we talked about that, how that closed down to make room for the Monsters roller coaster, Monsters Inc. roller coaster. And this, of course, is at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando. Muppets, of course, are moving into the old Aerosmith rock and roller coaster.
Yes.
But you and I talked about what would happen to Jim Henson's last project, Muppet Vision 3D, and we have an answer.
It's not the answer you wanted, though.
No.
So they're taking it to VR.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think we did anymore. Do we still do VR?
I didn't know that was still a thing. I guess it is. I guess they're still selling those.
It is still a thing. You can go out and you can buy the headsets. I've got 2 VR headsets. I don't remember the last time myself or my kids actually used them. They're just not what we want. It seems like. I mean, we've always talked about before we had VR how cool it was going to be when VR exists, and then VR existed. People bought the headsets. They put them on the roller coasters, and I don't know. It just seemed to be like, this isn't what we want.
Yeah,
kind of an interesting phenomenon that we kind of went through that phase of VR, and so this news is kind of surprising to me. It's like, I got to go dig out a VR headset. It's not worth it. I've already decided it's not worth it because there is stuff like this on the VR headset now, and I don't do it.
Right. So supposedly Muppet Vision 3D is coming to the Apple Vision Pro and other VR headsets. Disney filmed the attraction before they closed it. And I guess one of the interesting things is that you can actually see the show from any seat in the theater.
Okay.
That's kind of interesting. But I think people are a little bummed out that the ride didn't get preserved somewhere in the parks. And Brian Henson, son of Jim Henson, said during a Q&A recently that having this is better than it not coming to VR. So he's kind of like, well, it's better than just being scrapped altogether.
Better than nothing. But
much
better than nothing because nobody's going to look at it.
Yeah.
I would love to see some numbers for VR games and experiences. Like I can't imagine. I mean, in the thousands, people are going to look at this. Like I would not be surprised if they release this in a year's time. I don't know, 10,000 people actually watch the show.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I don't know anybody that uses their VR headset on a regular basis for anything. And listeners, prove me wrong. Tell me, like, I use it all the time, Eric. Every day.
Yeah, maybe. But I look at like they keep Carousel of Progress running, and that's an old World's Fair thing from 1964.
How
they keep that
hard
running.
would it have been to keep Muppet Vision 3D? How hard would it have been? You didn't need
somewhere,
that
right? Isn't there a theater somewhere or something that could be built? It doesn't have to be built to the same scale. But even so, it's like not that big. Like I'm just surprised that it couldn't go somewhere in all of Disney's properties across the globe, that it couldn't go somewhere, or even just here in the States, somewhere to be remembered.
It seemed, was it that unpopular in the parks with the audiences, with the guests? Because it does seem like you could lift it up pretty easily. There's no ride system to it. You just lift up some animatronics and and it's a screen and a projector. And it's just too bad that they did that.
It is too bad. I mean, I suppose, the ride film, I'm guessing, is preserved somewhere.
I'm sure, yes.
5 years from now, could you be like, hey, we made a mistake. We're just going to rebuild it in this smaller theater over here for people to enjoy it, like, on its 50th anniversary or something like that. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and you could recreate it with, a little bit less of the animatronics, a little bit less. There's other ways that you could do some of the same gags and hit some of the same beats of the storyline without necessarily recreating it one for one. So absolutely, this could come back, and maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they have plans and they're just not telling us.
Yeah.
How about that?
One last story here on the quick hits. This is a bit of a bummer, but
it doesn't bother me at all.
I know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but this is reported by Orlando station WKRC. Here's the first sentence. A mother allegedly abandoned her child at a bar.
Allegedly.
At the Universal Studios theme park, and this is at CityWalk, because the daughter wanted to go back to the hotel room instead of a dance club. And this happened on March 7th. Patrons observed a 12-year-old girl who was alone and crying at what they're calling the CW Shoreline Bar at Universal CityWalk. And I guess this isn't necessarily a bar that you walk into. It's like a kiosk that you sort of sit around. It's an outdoor area that you can sit there and order drinks. Investigators met with the child, who was visibly upset, crying, and sitting alone on a bar stool at the bar. It learned that her mother, who was a 33-year-old, had abandoned her earlier in the evening. Let's see what happened here. So the mother was reportedly and allegedly already intoxicated when she arrived at the bar with her daughter, and after an unspecified interaction with another patron, Thorpe reportedly said that she wanted to go to a dance club, to which her daughter responded that she was tired and wanted to go back to the hotel room. So the mom got livid with her daughter, gave her the middle finger, and said, F you, and left the Shoreline Bar without her child. Witnesses who observed the interaction allegedly notified Universal Security, who then contacted the authorities. So police showed up, EB. They found the daughter. They escorted her out of the property. And then they went and found the mother, who was indeed in the dance club. And she was like, wait. What's wrong? What are you talking about? I thought my daughter was here the whole time.
Well, no, that's not cool. Don't lie.
Yeah.
Like
she later said, my daughter is actually at the hotel room and not at CityWalk. And the story ends by saying she was confused about why she would go to jail for this behavior, since she had done similar things before. So there's the story out of Universal.
What dance club is at Universal CityWalk?
I think that there are several. I don't know if the Red
Groove
Coconut Club or
the Red Coconut Club.
Yeah, I think there's several places that have dancing, though.
Okay. Now, what time of night was this? Did we say what time of night this was?
It does not say. That's a good question. That actually is a good question. It does not say, though. Yeah.
That's gonna affect my opinion here, but only a little bit, because this girl's 12. She's 12.
Yeah. You feel that's old enough to be left on her own at CityWalk?
I mean, the mom's obviously mean.
I was flicking her off and saying "F you," yes,
and not being a very good parent here.
Right,
but I don't feel like she abandoned a child. She's 12. You can hire.
12 is close. I think you have to be like 16 or 17
How
or 8
about,
before.
The other thing that I don't like is that she was alone.
Right.
Now, let's say there's 4 girls and they're 12, 13, and 14.
Okay, now you're getting, now it's changing
they could be
a little
at
bit.
Universal CityWalk by themselves, right? In a group?
Sure.
You feel okay about that?
I feel better about that because they'd all be together.
Yeah.
If they were given instructions to not leave each other's sides, that would be a different
that
thing.
would, again, be the good parenting, not flip off the kid and say F you.
Yes. Yeah. I think leaving any child under 18 alone is probably not
alone is the problem
idea.
I have, I think. So, but 12 is not too young, but maybe alone 12 is not okay.
Yeah.
And certainly don't just yell at the kid and then walk away from them.
I know.
I mean, come on. She could have said, why don't you go shopping, stay in the store. If you get bored, text me. But I want to go back in the club because that fella's giving me the eyes and you need a new dad.
Right. Yeah. And if you do the math on this is tough because if the mom is 33, the daughter's 12, that means she had the daughter when she was 21. So your 20s are gone.
Don't be shaming the teen mom, okay?
No, I'm not shaming. I'm just saying I get it. I understand you're like, man, my 20s were spent raising this baby. I want to go out and have fun. But you got to think about that before you get to CityWalk. You've got to be like, okay, here's what I'm going to go on this vacation alone.
This mom had a bad plan. She could have taken that kid back to the hotel.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Put on a movie. Have fun.
EB, they even have babysitting services in Orlando where you could hire a babysitter and be like, I'm going to go out to the club.
For a 12-year-old, but still.
Probably not, but there are ways to do it. There are ways to do it that are better. Hey, I'm in that phase right now where every time I go to the theme park, I've got to sit in the kiddie section the whole day. I know I want to go ride a roller coaster, but I don't flip off my daughters.
I want to know why is this mom and daughter on vacation together if they obviously don't like each other?
I know, yeah.
Like there should, like, the daughter should have stayed at a friend's house or stayed with an aunt or an uncle, or maybe that was the problem, was that everybody else was having fun doing their own thing, and she drew the short straw to have to watch the kid.
Yeah,
like, I don't know why this kid's there. Why is she there?
And I got to say this too. I don't know what it is, but like at CityWalk, I don't know if they have like watered down booze or anything, but like I have never gotten even close to tipsy at CityWalk. There's like not enough in whatever they have in there. So I don't know what this lady was drinking to get that drunk to say F you and flip off her daughter. But
that's
not, man. I had a nice drink at Cowfish, did nothing.
Not
like,
a good,
Japanese whiskey or something, but I felt nothing, man.
Not a good mom.
And when we were at Epic Universe, we had some drinks too. They were tasty, but I wasn't like feeling buzzed walking around or anything.
All right,
let's move on. Except for Bar Moonshine, we will talk about that.
Let's do this.
And all the great things that we saw at Epic Universe. I think we are ready.
Let's do it.
Get into that. I'm excited about it. We'll talk about it right after this.
This is Coaster Radio. Welcome back to the original theme park podcast, Coaster Radio. Here are your hosts, Mike Collins and EB.
Welcome back, everybody, to the original theme park podcast. You are listening to Coaster Radio. My name is Mike. I am here with EB, just getting ready to reminisce about what Tom from Louisville, who was with us when we went to Epic Universe, said was a top 5 theme park day for him.
A top 5 theme park day for somebody who goes to a lot of parks. That's a great sentiment. So, and yes. I don't necessarily disagree with Tom. We had a fantastic day at Epic Universe, Mike. So let's get started. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about like what our expectations were going in, though. Because I think that sort of maybe might color like how we felt about things throughout the day. So what were you thinking like going into that day?
I was expecting things to not be open. Number one. So I was not shocked and surprised that Starfall Racers was not open. Stardust Racers now. The sign out front said it's going to be closed all day. They had multiple signs to make sure people knew it going in. But I thought other things might be closed too. And I'd also heard about huge lines. Yes. Right. And so I had an expectation that we might be waiting in some big lines for the day. And I think with any new park, you get a lot of cynical people who complain a lot. And so many of the attractions were getting mixed reviews. And, Yeah, I think just in general, and we'll talk specifically because I think I had different expectations for different attractions. The thing that did meet that exceeded my expectations immediately, that I wasn't quite sure what to expect, was how beautiful the park was. I remember early on when Universal themselves was talking about building Epic Universe, and they were saying Celestial Park is going to be a park. It's going to be a beautiful place that you want to be in, and that did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Everything was themed to this retro futuristic outer space sort of a look and feel. I mean, it felt like you were on, I don't know, like a Guardians of the Galaxy planet, right? That sort of thing. Or like a very pleasant world that you would visit in Star Trek. The benches were themed, the railings were themed, everything was well manicured. As far as the landscaping is concerned, there were lots of places to sit. There were even places to lounge and lay down. We went to that one area where they have the big, almost like an amphitheater that faces the one of the fountains, and it's got slopey artificial turf, and people were just like relaxing and laying down in the grass in the park. So much fun and so pretty. And then, of course, the portals themselves. You go into one big portal at the beginning of the park, and then all of the portals that you can walk through are just really cool to look at and really impressive. And they do such a good, effective job of saying, you are leaving this area and going into this area. And that's something that a lot of parks don't do well. But this park nailed it with those portals. What a great idea. I don't know of any other park that has done moving from land to land better than what I saw at Epic Universe.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that because there were parts of the day where I forgot where I was, especially being in the Harry Potter land. Like you really felt like you were all of a sudden in France. I can't wait to talk about that as we go, portal by portal. But for me, I went in with very high expectations for the beauty of the park, just because I had heard so much about it and, all of the little details that their designers put in everywhere. So high expectations, sky high for that. I had incredibly low expectations for operations, though. I had been following social media. I had seen people saying, I waited 3 hours for this ride, 4 hours for this. It took 3 hours for Ministry of Magic to open. It took 2 hours for Donkey Kong. So I was just ready to get in there and see things not operating.
And things we already knew while you were in line. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The day before when we were at SeaWorld and everybody was saying, well, Stardust Racers isn't opening. I was like, well, here we go. Like, so that I went into the park. I was waiting in the metal detector line, just saying, hey, at least I'm going to get a chance to kind of see the beauty of the park and walk around and get a sense of what it was. So that's interesting. Now, the other thing is that we had a longtime listener of the show who works at Universal come and meet us there and was kind enough to get us tickets to go in, but also was able to walk around and get us Universal Express for the entire day.
Yes, as an employee hanging out with us all day, just walking us right up the Express Pass line, which is so much fun.
Yeah, and that was so kind of him to do. I think that changed a little. Like so you have to know that going in that we had that ability to bypass some of these long lines. And what was it at the Ministry of Magic? That was the longest wait we had seen on the whole trip.
I think we saw it go from 240 to 280 while we were standing there watching the person who had the sign that tells you the wait time. They flipped it over to 280 minutes.
Yeah. And not to jump ahead, I mean, how long did we wait to get on that ride total?
20
minutes or so. So that changes how you feel about a park when you don't have to have the frustrations that a lot of other people do. Also, we didn't have to pay for those things either. Like, those the ticket to Universal plus the Express Pass, when you add those together, that's expensive. So that you have to, all of that, I think, as we talk about what we're talking about, we're seeing the park under the best circumstances, I think.
Yes. And 20 years of Coaster Radio paid off that day because that's why we do the podcast. We've said that's part of why we enjoy doing the podcast is because it helps us get to the parks. And it certainly did. And it was wonderful. So, do we want to go right into Harry Potter? That was the first portal that we walked into.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you want to talk about first the Celestial Park, because we did do one ride before we went there. And we should also talk about who was with us, too, because it wasn't just you, me, and our friend from Universal. We also had Tom from Louisville was there. Tim Wilson was there, and also Chris Rankin.
Yes.
So that was sort of our group that we went around with for the day.
Yeah, it was a great group, and I'll say that Celestial Park, even the front entrance, even where I got dropped off by my Uber, the music that was in the beginning of the park. It was epic, right? Like I remember getting out of the Uber. As soon as I opened the door of the Uber, I was greeted with bum, 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 bum. Like this just epic score that goes with the park as you walk into that first portal to get into Epic Universe. And then Celestial Park itself has music playing that's just wonderful. This is not pop songs, right, that you're listening to like at an amusement park. These are very crafted and curated soundtracks that go along with each of these lands.
Yeah, we even talked about at one point that it sort of felt like Myst. Remember the old video game Myst?
Yes.
You know, like in terms of the soundtrack and walking around. I was blown away and remembered what we had talked about years ago when they talked about Celestial Park, that they were putting the park back into theme park. And you mentioned it, that there was a green grass area where you could sit in front of the fountains. And like you said, there were people in the middle of the day laying down in the grass. You could sit there and have a picnic or sit there and watch the fountain shows that happens. And, you know, way off in the distance, the Grand Helios Hotel, which I can only imagine what it costs to have a view into the park from that hotel. But really, really cool. And so it was funny, like we were walking around kind of just taking everything in. We actually stopped in one of the shops because Chris wanted to buy a sweatshirt because it was really cold that day.
It was cold, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it went from being like temperatures the 2 days before that were setting records for heat all the way to being, you know, pretty cold. I think it was like, you know, 40s when we got there.
Yes, and it was, and it really was funny. You could tell as I got there first and was waiting for everybody, and as I was watching people come into the park, you could tell who was a local and who was from out of town by how they were complaining about the cold.
Yes.
Right? Like it was like, oh, you guys are from Florida, because they were like teeth chattering and like holding their ears, and then other people would walk in with like shorts and a t-shirt, and it was like, all right, y'all are from the Midwest, y'all are from Orlando, I can tell.
There you go. Exactly. So I really loved the Celestial Park area. I thought there were just fun restaurants around. We'll talk about eating at Pizza Moon in a second. They had the Celeste Tiki that was there that was fun. So what's interesting, though, is I did not know this, and I'm embarrassed to say I did not know this, but you told me something really fascinating about Celestial Park and the portals, and even how there are some remnants of what the park was supposed to be.
Well, this was Tom.
This was really neat.
I think Tom noticed these first and was pointing them out to us. Was as you approach each portal, of course, they're round, and then you walk through them, and there is a bit of a tunnel to them. You know, depending on which portal, I don't know if they're all the same size, but maybe 20, 30 feet of tunnel that you're walking through. But at the beginning of each of these, if you look down at the pavement, you would see what looks like almost like the metal outlet covers that you would see in a convention hall or at the mall, where it's a metal plate that is something that could be removed with screws or whatever in the concrete or in the pavement. And Tom from Louisville pointed them out, and they were in a line about 3 feet apart across the front of each of the portals on the ground. And Mike, that's where they had the turnstiles.
Yes.
And they removed the turnstiles and put those plates in where the turnstiles were pulled out of because yes, originally the idea was Celestial Park would be like CityWalk and would be open to the public. And then you would have to have a portal pass, either 1, 2, 3, or 4 portals to go into each of the portal lands. So yeah, people could go into Celestial Park for nothing. Was originally what it was going to be. And we can see, thanks to Tom for pointing those out, that they got so far as to install those turnstiles and then remove them.
Yeah, interesting. And you wonder what they would have done with Stardust Racers, what they would have done with the Constellation Carousel. You know, would those have been upcharges? Would that have been like a separate ticket? Who knows? Interesting. So, yeah. So it was interesting to just kind of see what the park was at one point and what it became. I thought it was interesting that the first ride of the day that we rode was the Constellation Carousel. I was surprised that we were walking up to it, but it was a walk-on. Nobody was there. Everybody, I guess, as soon as the park opened, was headed back to Ministry of Magic or Donkey Kong.
Well,
and
it is a carousel, and every advice that you see when people are talking about how do I prioritize my day at Epic Universe, universally, no pun intended, people say skip the carousel.
Yes, right, yeah.
But yes, we walked past it, and there was no line, and the ride cycle was about to go, and it was like, you guys want to just real quick? Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was so glad that we did. It was really fun. It was a very different carousel. It's not just something that just goes in a circle. The different animals that you ride, and they're all different kinds, kind of dance with each other and move around each other and stuff. It was really cool. And the entire dome area is moving. It's just, and I'm sure at night it's even more incredible and impressive. But I like that. That was a great introduction to what we were going to experience in this day.
Yeah, a whimsical and fully unique carousel.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we were expecting with this park, was something that we have not experienced before. That's more than other things that we've experienced that are similar. And that's what the carousel was. Right. And it was magical, Mike. It's magical.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was cool. So it's sort of like, I'm glad we did it because it kind of set the mood.
It did.
For everything that we were going to experience. So
we had a little whimsy in our step after that.
Yeah. So the group decided to go to the first portal of the day, which was the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic.
Which I still don't understand the long-lasting appeal of Harry Potter. I really don't. This land is mostly fantastic beasts, right? So when you walk through the portal, you're not going to present day, or I guess technically the late 90s, which is where the Harry Potter universe takes place. You're going into Fantastic Beasts time, which is the 1920s.
Yes.
I guess.
Yep.
And the way this portal worked is you go through the round tunnel of the portal. There's a wall, a stone wall in front of you, blocking your view, that you have to walk around. The wall is, what would you say, Mike, 16 feet tall, maybe 30 feet across. So you have to really walk around it. And then as you walk around it, you see this huge Arc de Triomphe sort of structure and 1920s Paris on the other side. And what was the thing that we heard was the shortest building in the Ministry of Magic is taller than the tallest building of the other two Harry Potter lands.
Yes.
And these urban buildings go all the way up and block your view in all directions. You are in Paris.
I got to say, this was the most impressive land to me. Very close with Isle of Berk, which we'll get to. But in terms of just kind of blowing you away of walking in and really feeling like you left, where you were, and you were in a completely different place. And having been to Paris recently, which a lot of it still looks exactly like it did in 1920, they got it exactly right with the just different details. And then, of course, if you got to look very closely, you see all these little magical details and Harry Potter and Fantastic Beast references and stuff. But, I sent this to some family that I have who, grew up there, and they were all impressed. They're like, yeah, that's it. It's really amazing. So, but like you said, just a much grander scale than Diagon Alley or Hogsmeade. And I was really impressed by that for sure.
Yeah, and as you walk in, the layout, it's essentially a 4 streets that meet at an intersection, is essentially what the layout is. So you really can go down each of those streets and feel like you're still immersed in the land itself. The Harry Potter theming doesn't really matter, I felt like. I've been critical of the Harry Potter theming, very critical of why they would do anything with Fantastic Beasts. That makes no sense to me. But it didn't feel like that, right? It just felt like Magic Paris. There's the tent that's in the center. That's the big show. We can talk about that maybe. And that's really clever because it just looks like a tent, but then of course it extends back into a show building. But it doesn't feel like it's imposing on the street, which I think was really good, the way that they did that. And then, of course, you do go back into the Ministry of Magic itself, which does transport you for reasons to the modern era Harry Potter characters.
Yeah, to like the 1990s, so I didn't quite get that. Maybe I missed something while I was talking or like taking a picture or something. I wasn't sure the exact moment we went from 1920 to 1990. I think I missed that.
I guess it's the flu powder, right? When you go through the green, right? You go into the giant fireplace, and I guess it took us through space and time.
Yeah, I guess
it
so.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Right? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that was pretty impressive to me when we went from 1920, as you're kind of going through the metro station, it seemed, you go through the fireplace and you come out into that hall that looks just like what we saw in the movies. But again, on such a huge scale that it kind of shocks you. A lot of times we go into some of these like things that, Universal or Disney creates, and you can tell it's scaled down. This felt exactly like what you see in the movies, like that large.
Well,
and that impressive. Yeah.
Our host was telling us when they were, designing this attraction, they were assuming like, oh, we're going to see the plans and it's going to be like, oh, you're in a hallway, or like you look out and there's some sort of way of doing an illusion of making the space look bigger. And it was like, oh, here's the plans. We're just going to build the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah.
And they just built the Ministry of Magic. I mean, you go into a room that has office windows 6-8 floors up, and you see all of them, and in this huge space. It's ridiculously large. How big this is. I don't think I've ever been in any theme park attraction ever anywhere that was this big. Not counting like an indoor park or an indoor water park. This was the largest attraction I've ever been in.
Oh yeah, and just the big sculpture that's there in the center, the banners that are hanging. That have Dolores Umbridge up there, and she's moving magically. The Minister of Magic is up there too. So very cool. One thing that I love about Universal, and they did it with this park, but they do it with a lot of their parks, there are no switchbacks. You're not going like back and forth. You are moving through the attraction as part of the queue. So you're always seeing something interesting. It's very rare for you just to be in a closed off hallway. There's always something for you to read or look at. That's what I appreciated about the queue for Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, and we bypassed some of the things. But you did go through a couple of different rooms. You do see a little bit of pre-show with a couple of animatronics. There is a lot to read. There's a lot to look at. We were told that when you look at any of the names on anything, those are all names of people that were on the team that helped design and build the attraction, which I thought was really fun. So it'd be like, Mike Collinso or whatever would be the name that you would put up, if you worked on the attraction. But so we go through the whole thing, and then we get to our magical elevator, right? This is the attraction is these elevators. I was impressed with how nice they were. Right, because a lot of times it'll be like, get on your magic elevator, and it's like, that's just a theme park bench or a roller coaster seat that you put inside of a box. Like, no, this was like, it looked like it was leather with gold trim and real wood, and it really felt like, oh, this is kind of fancy. Like I'm at the Ministry of Magic to go watch a formal courtroom appearance. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, and I like that it fit a lot of people. Like, I don't know if it was 12 people or something like that, but it wasn't just 4. You could sit with your whole group and different levels. It reminded me of the vehicles on Tower of Terror. How you could fit just people in 2 rows or so. But then, that thing just took off, and we were on our way with the ride. And I had done a good job, EB. I didn't do a great job because I did look online at a few videos to kind of get a sense of what the ride was. But for the most part, I did not know what the story was going to be, what was going to happen. And I was glad that I experienced it for the first time without kind of knowing ahead of time what it might be.
Well, that's great and all, but I rode the ride and don't know what the story was. It was confusing. And I've seen the Harry Potter movies and I've read the Harry Potter books. This isn't a scene that happens in either.
No.
Right. So this was a new look at something that happened during the course of events of the story. But essentially it's the trial of the villain, Dolores Umbridge.
Yep.
She escapes custody while she's being taken into the courtroom, and then she calls on some Death Eaters, and for reasons Harry Potter and Hermione and Rupert, what's his name? Rupert Kent.
Oh yeah, Ron Weasley.
Ron Weasley. For reasons they're there, and they need your help to help save the day, or they try to push you out of the way of harm's way. And I don't know. There's a lot of magic and there's a lot of flying around.
And I guess at one point, Dolores Umbridge grabs a time turner and is going to like spin time backwards to make Voldemort.
That's right. There was this whole plot about her trying to. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
To go back to the time of Lord Voldemort. And so she starts it, but then the room starts exploding and all these things happen and she starts flying through time. Harry and Ron chase her. And at the end, they capture her. And it's a pretty cool scene, like with all animatronics at the end there. But during the ride, like they're Death Eaters battling Ron and Hermione, and like your elevators flying around. And at one point, you go into the Department of Magical Creatures, and some big horned animal smacks you around and stuff. So a lot of things happening in this ride. Very different than Forbidden Journey in terms of the vehicle movement and what you were feeling. It was way more movement than I thought it would be. But I enjoyed it, man. It was a good show, even though there were some things that weren't working. Do you remember like the one animatronic of the Death Eater was
static, and it was like, this obviously is supposed to be moving. And also, again, the scope and scale of this, talking about Forbidden Journey, or the Cuckoo Arm ride, you're up close on things. And the only time you get a sense of scale and flying is when you're immersed in the screen. Right. Yeah. Any other time you're like in the Whomping Willow, or you've got spiders all around you, or you're moving through the structure of the castle itself. Yep. This, you go into these massive rooms or these huge atriums, and they did a great job of hiding the screens, so that there is this depth and characters that appear and the magic that happens on screens, but it's not like you're looking at a rectangle. Right. And it's not like it's all screen and only screen. The screens are so well integrated. Now, this was something that I thought was strange. And we can talk about this when we get to the Monsters attraction, too. The characters on the screens looked kind of rubbery and cartoony and almost uncanny valley of fake CG. Like it was, they did not hire Daniel Radcliffe to come back and de-age him and put him in this film. This was a CG character. And was that to make it easier to swap between the on-screen character and the animatronic characters, which obviously are not perfect and look kind of weird too?
Yep. Interesting. That's an interesting thought.
I
remember talking about that. The same with the Monsters attraction, that it was like CG characters.
Yeah, it was like cartoons, and then you would see the animatronic, and they were a little bit cartoony too.
Yeah, I wonder if that made it easier, or are they just thinking we're moving so fast you're not really seeing much anyway? Everything's flying around. But yeah, it did have a little bit of that, the CG on those characters, and that's surprising. I think in 2026 that it is that way. So yeah, but that's a good point. That's a good point for that ride. Yeah,
but it was incredible and a great way to start. And of course, we did not wait 280 minutes. Right. No, when we left that attraction, we saw them switch the sign from 240 to 280. We talked about how that whole land is, a city block of Paris. The line stretched the entire way. For that attraction, not counting the queue inside the building, which is massive, and you go through many, many, many scenes. Outside the building, down the street, it went a whole city block. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what's weird. Like, I really enjoyed the ride, and I felt happy getting off it. But I waited 20 minutes. If I waited 4.5 hours, I don't know how I'd feel. I don't know if I'd be like, well, that was okay, but it was not worth 4.5 hours of my day. And especially when if the park's open 12 hours and you spend 4 of it in a line, that's not good.
Yeah, we were doing math and counting up the waits on some of these. And if you got to the park at 10 a.m., you probably got on 3 attractions.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So that's tough. I was happy. I was not planning on seeing any of the shows. I did not think we would have time to. I thought we would have to get on all the big attractions. But we went in and saw Le Cirque Arcanus, and I was so glad we did, because there are 2 shows that are well known here at Epic Universe. This was one of them, and it was pretty spectacular. And again, you brought up a fun effect. Do you remember in the Harry Potter movie where they go to see the Quidditch World Cup and Mr. Weasley puts up a tent and it's real small and they all get in, and then they go in and it's gigantic. due to magic. They did the same thing with this, and that was a lot of fun. I liked how they did that.
It was very clever. And the queue for this, you had to go in. We saw that the show was starting in only 15 minutes. I think that was a big reason why we were like, oh, well, let's go. It's 15 minutes. So we didn't have to wait in the queue for very long. It was an entertaining and interesting queue inside that tent, that red tent. And then they let you into a pre-show area. And it was funny because I don't think any of us knew what the show was or what the format of the show was going to be or what. But in the pre-show area, we were all talking about what special effects were going to happen.
Yes,
just by looking around the room, we were like, oh, look at those barrels over there. They look like they're going to topple over on us. And oh, look at that. That's going to be like a screen. And oh, that's going to move and it's going to reveal a character behind it. None of those things happened.
I know, and that's what I love.
Happened.
I love being with fellow theme park fans because it's all right to like guess and try to figure it out.
We were totally speculating about like, oh, there's a gag in this room. I know it's going to do this. And then a guy came out, did the little pre-show banter, did a couple like a sleight of hand thing with a floating suitcase. A couple other characters came out, gave us some pre-show, and then. Nothing happened in the room. That was spectacular. And then they said, okay, everybody into the theater. That wasn't the show at all. That was just another holding area where we got a little bit of the plot about this circus that is visiting town. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you appreciated this because the whole point of the show was about a circus that did not have animals. And this guy, all of a sudden, I guess, Newt Scamander comes along with his suitcase, or he grabs his suitcase, and they do there's some fantastic special effects where they go inside the suitcase, and it's really great. But it was all about like being kind to the animals, right? And I knew you would appreciate that.
Yeah, it was funny because the pre-show especially was all about how I'm the circus man and you're going to see the great circus and there's a wonderful circus and everyone loves the circus. And I'm like, why are you celebrating circuses so much? I thought circuses were bad. You know. And then we go in and we watch the circus show. Halfway through the circus show, you find out that the guy running the circus is, in fact, the villain of this story, spoiler alert, and gets his comeuppance at the end, and that's the end of the circus. And it's like, all right, good.
Yeah. But really great special effects. I don't want to give away anything, but there's puppeteering, there's effects on the stage. Really cool. And, and amazing how many people can fit in that theater. Really, really great.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts, large and small, but it was a Fantastic Beasts show. And again, I haven't even seen all of the Fantastic Beasts movies. No. I didn't think they were all that great. But again, it doesn't matter because it's Magic Paris.
Right.
It doesn't. It's just like if you went to Star Wars Land, it would just be like outer space. And that's fine. And we're going to get into the Isle of Berk. It's kind of the same thing with Isle of Berk. It doesn't matter if you know how to train your dragon because you're just in Viking Land.
Right.
And that's plenty good enough.
It was the same way for me with Super Mario World. I don't know. I know I played Super Mario Brothers when I was a kid, but that's it. That's all I did.
Well, and you were just in Cartoon Town.
Yeah. And with Fantastic Beasts, I saw like 5 minutes of that movie and turned it off. So I didn't know what was going on, but I didn't need to. I got it. It was enough to get.
Cirque Arcanus, more like it.
Exactly. So after that, we decided it was starting to get crowded in that land. Everybody was coming in, though people were standing in line to do the wands and stuff. So we were all hungry. We headed off to Pizza Moon in Celestial Park. And that was fantastic. That was some good pizza and good conversation with all the guys. It was a good time.
Yeah, and that restaurant was wonderfully themed and absolutely beautiful. It fit right into the park. It wasn't like you were in the beautiful Celestial Park and then you went into an off-brand Pizza Hut, right? Or just some generic restaurant. It was that same fantastically whimsical, retro-futuristic, with the classical paintings of the women with the stars and the flowing dresses, like the Columbia Pictures logo, right? It was that kind of a vibe. It was really cool.
Right.
And great food. Yep.
Yeah, and the other cool thing is a lot of the restaurants, and we found this later on when we ate at Super Mario World, it's all online ordering. So you don't wait in a long line at a cash register and buy your food or whatever. You get sent to a table. On the table, there's a QR code. You scan it, and as part of the Universal app, you actually buy your food, and they bring it right to your table. It was really nice.
Yeah, and I think we predicted this long ago that having a phone would eventually become a requirement to go to the parks, and that's absolutely the case with Epic Universe. Is you have to have a phone to go to this park.
Yeah. And it's important too. Like I had for this trip, I bought a charger that I kept in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I did, because at the halfway point of the day, my phone was dead because of how much you have to use it. So, the charger brought it right back up. But yeah, really important, I think, going forward to make sure that you have a fully charged phone when you go to parks like this and others where even your quick queues and, fast lanes and stuff are on your phone. On the phone. So after that, we did get a chance to take a look at Stardust Racers. It was closed. We told you in a previous episode they had cast members or team members out there the whole time.
Yep.
And we found out from Eric, who works at Universal, that those were probably the full-time cast members who work on, or team members who work on that ride. So, they weren't going to just stay home. They put them out there to answer questions and to encourage people to go on other attractions. But we found out today, as we're recording this episode, Stardust Racers is going to be closed through April 5th.
That's right. So they've extended whatever work that they're doing another week, I guess, or another 2 weeks. So April 5th now is the new, or 6th would be the reopening date for Stardust Racer. We'll see if they can keep that date.
Yeah. And remember, this was February 23rd was the day that so that's a long downtime for their headlining attraction.
Sure is.
Yeah. So next it was over to Super Nintendo World. And this is, again, the one portal that I knew the least about in terms of like actually being able to go in. Like, like I said, my level of knowledge about Nintendo was playing Super Mario Brothers when I was a kid. And that was it, like in terms of these characters and stuff. So everything that I experienced was from a newbie's perspective.
I love Super Nintendo Land. I really liked the fact that I had seen it already in California to be able to compare the two. This Super Nintendo Land is huge compared to California. I think that was the most striking thing. And I'm not just talking about the fact that it's got the Donkey Kong Land as a sub portal that you also go through. Just the Super Mario Land itself is 2 levels at this park. And it has the Yoshi attraction, which, increases the footprint even further.
Right.
But it's super cute. And again, the walls go all the way up. You can't see outside the land for the most part. And I had my Magic Band from California, remembered to bring that with me. So we were able to punch the question blocks and things like that and experience some of those things as well. Bowser's Challenge is one of those attractions that I am not super impressed with and have not, thought was very great. We got to ride it a couple of times. And I'm curious to know what you thought, especially not knowing anything about what was going on and who the characters were.
Yeah, so this was what was interesting because I remember hearing your report from it and others from the one in Hollywood and Japan basically saying like they were kind of like down on the ride, saying it wasn't that fun. It didn't feel like you were going fast. The ride system and the game system was hard to understand. So my expectations for this ride were rock bottom. Like they were at the very lowest. And it was almost like I was like, well, let's just ride it so we can talk about it on the show. But I was way more excited for other things, including the Donkey Kong roller coaster that I also had low expectations for. I had so much fun on this ride, man. I really liked it. I didn't know the characters or what was going on, but it was enough of information in the pre-show to get it and to understand like, okay, here's what I have to do. And people who had ridden it before who were there, including our friend from Universal, kind of explained things.
Yes.
And said like, hey, don't move your hands to aim, move your head. And after about 30 or 45 seconds on the ride, I got it and I understood and I enjoyed it, man. It was so fun. It was so different and I really, really liked it. And I liked it even better on the second time we went on it. It was really good.
Yeah, so I only got on it a couple of times in California and I did better the second time and enjoyed it more the second time. This is a ride you do have to ride again and again to figure out the game. And maybe that's fitting for a Super Mario ride that you do need to do that. But talking to people who have ridden it before or understand the way it works, right? Like, I don't think I was even clear that I was on a team when I rode it in California.
Yes,
that you don't shoot Princess Peach because, like, in the game, there's no teams. It's you against everybody else and you're racing. But no, there's good guys and bad guys. You're on the good guy team. Don't shoot the good guys. Oh, okay. And yes, look to aim. This is the augmented reality where you put on the visor. And so you see characters on your visor glass, but you're also in practical sets in the real world. So to aim, you point your face at the things, but your trigger for shooting is on the steering wheel, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah, so it's a little weird, but
knowing that helps. And then also you get coins and points for steering with the ride vehicle. The ride vehicle obviously is on a track. The motions are pre-programmed, but you get prompts on your goggles to turn left, to turn right. I think just to make you feel like you are driving. And you get coins if you successfully match the motion of the ride vehicle. So knowing to look to aim, understanding that I'm on a team, now I'm playing the game, and I did have a lot more fun this time.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. And like you said, you have to do this several times to get it. But again, I liked that you could, just like we talked about at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida at the Minions Blaster game, you could connect things to your phone and keep track of your high scores, and the game would change based on how much you play. Our friend who was with us saw that his name and score was in the top 10, so like things like that are really cool. And we found that later at some other attractions as well. So it's just really fun, though. I was glad we did it, and it's definitely better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, and I think also, again, if you don't have to wait, there's single rider for this. So if you go to the park, always single rider. Give it a try at least a couple of times, or make a point of coming back at the end of the day and giving it a few more laps if you possibly can. Plus, the land looks way different at night and is really cool at night. So
the land is
important.
Cool.
This land, I think, in particular, is so different day to night that you do have to visit it twice.
So many things moving. And like I said, with the phone and keeping your score, like with your wristband, as you would touch things and go on missions around the land by getting different points and different touch points. It was really, really cool. And also it did have, even with the augmented reality, it fooled you into think you were going a little faster.
Yes.
So at different points of the ride. So it was good. It was neat. After that, we went over to Yoshi's Adventure. And you're going to have to explain to me what this was. I felt so bad for anyone. There were people waiting in the hour-long line. I mean, we got on it in 5 minutes, but there were people waiting. Yeah. I don't understand what it was or why it was there. And it's the one thing that was a miss, I think, at Epic Universe for the whole day in terms of an attraction. To me, it was a complete miss. I did not understand it. Explain to me why that was there.
It's a baby ride. Right? I mean, there's no other way to say it. This is a baby's ride. You get into a ride vehicle that seats 2. You are sitting in a Yoshi-shaped ride vehicle. There are 3 giant plastic buttons on the front that you can push. There's a blue egg, a yellow egg, and a red egg. When you see those on the ride, you're supposed to push the button for reasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this Yoshi ride vehicle just slowly meanders down a path.
Yeah.
There's no going up. There's no going down. There's no change in speed. You don't even turn, spin your ride vehicle. You just meander down this path, looking at many of the exact same props and scenery that you can see walking around this section. So you're not even seeing much that's new. But you do go indoors and you see some Yoshis doing some cute things. And then you see a red egg and you push the red egg button and your Yoshi car goes, "Meow."
Right. Yeah.
And and then the ride's over. So it is a baby's ride. I mean, this is like when you go to Six Flags and your kid wants to ride in the little Jeep and the Jeep meanders around and you look at a facade of a house. That's all this was. It's just a ride that meanders and does nothing. And there's no super technology here. There's no.
But the thing that was bothering me, man, is there were people waiting 90 minutes for it. And I can't imagine at a park where time is valuable that anyone would waste their time on that one. And I get it. Maybe you've got a little kid and you go in and that's the one thing they can ride there. Okay. That's, there were a lot of families in line, but
it's called Yoshi's Adventure. There is a roller coaster in this section and there is a quote unquote high speed go-kart ride that's in this section. you do see these Yoshis with people in them from the midway, right? You can see them as they move through the outdoor section, and they are just moving slowly along a fixed path. So maybe people think it's Yoshi's Adventure and something happens?
Maybe, yeah.
Right? Like maybe they think there's a dark ride experience in there somehow. Maybe they think it does something, but this ride does not do. It does exactly what it looks like it's doing, which is just a Yoshi that just kind of walks along. And it doesn't even walk. It just kind of, Yeah.
I wrote it with Kevin Wilson, and as we got to the exit, he was like, "Oh, that's it." That's what like we were waiting for something to happen, like there to be some type of moment.
The adventure part?
But all of the attractions at Epic Universe up to that point and after all had something amazing as part of it. And this just surprised me that it was, not fun and not interesting at all.
It just moves you through some scenery. That's it.
Yeah. So after that, we headed into Donkey Kong Country.
Yes.
And again, expectations being very low because people have called into this show. People have been all over social media saying the ride is not worth the wait. Again, though, we had Universal Express, and I don't know if it was like an hour and a half, 2 hour wait for, the normal standby line. For us, we were on it, I think, in 30 minutes. But before we talk about the ride itself, I love the look of this land and how the Donkey Kong roller coaster kind of went all over the place, and you could see mine carts all over, and there was just a lot of motion. And just, the land is all about the roller coaster. That's exactly what it was. There wasn't anything else. There was like a food shack there where you could get like banana ice cream or something. But I love the look of this land and how the roller coaster just was integrated into all of it.
Well, and I like that we are getting a look at how Epic Universe will expand, and it's through perhaps these sub portals, because you did go through another portal into this Donkey Kong land, and you're immersed in it. And this whole Donkey Kong land is well, I don't know the square footage of it, but it was about the size of the California entire Super Mario World. And you're right about those mine carts of the roller coaster. It's up high, and so it really does draw your eye up into the trees of this jungle space. And what's the dispatch? This is a continuous dispatch roller coaster with these single cars. I think the dispatch was 10 or 11 seconds. So you are constantly seeing these roller coaster cars moving around in multiple at the same time. The blocks on this there's so many different blocks, if you know how roller coasters work, with these cars dispatching 10 seconds apart. But really, really, really cool. I think everybody had low expectations of this one, especially after hearing the reviews, especially after hyping up the cantilevered coaster concept for nearly 20 years.
Yes.
Since we first saw the patent come out, and dreaming and imagining about the potential of this thing. It looks great. It's really cool. It had a couple of good gags with it, but it did not meet expectations. This did not fulfill the potential, I feel like, that the cantilevered coaster concept could have fulfilled.
Sure. I absolutely agree with that, although it did exceed my low expectations.
Yes.
It was better than I thought it would be. It still could be a ton better, but I found myself having fun on it and laughing and trying to suspend disbelief because I knew how it worked. But I found myself not looking over to where I knew the cantilever part was and just focusing on the track. And if you can do that and suspend that disbelief, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, and if you approach the ride as silly,
yes,
it works a lot better, right?
Right.
So the first jump that you do, it almost feels like you're being put into slow motion because the ride is slow. It's not that fast.
Sure.
But if you think, oh, I'm in a cartoon and I'm going to jump this in slow motion, like you were saying, Mike, if you just try to get into it, it does help a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the key. That's the key. You can't go into it. I need this to really feel like it's jumping the track. Although you and I had a fun discussion about what could they do with that ride to really make it feel
to sell it
a little more, because everything was so smooth, and that is there a way to feel a jump or a jar when it hits the track again?
Right. And could it be as simple as putting a little bit of a rumble in the car itself, and that rumble turns off when you're flying through the air?
Yes.
Right, because that's what you would experience in real life is you would feel, I mean, I don't know if you ever jumped a car before, but you feel when your tires leave the ground.
Yes.
It feels very different, or even taking off on an airplane. That feeling that you have when you leave the ground, that needed to be replicated somehow. I also think the way that they made the track stylized, right? The false track that you're following. And so where the track would be broken, it looks great from the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't sell the effect because the track is bent where it's broken, and that's where you jump, but you don't feel that break. You don't feel that how the track is bent.
Yeah.
And you should feel that to sell the effect a bit better. There were things they could have done, and maybe they talked about it, maybe they thought about it, and maybe that would make it too scary. I mean, if you sold the fact that you're jumping a roller coaster car over a flaming pit, it's like, I don't really want to ride something like that.
Right. But maybe it wasn't too scary. Maybe it was too expensive to do that type of thing.
Maybe. And if we're talking about selling, a physical jolt, that's going to be wear and tear on those ride vehicles. And that system in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm with you. It did not live up to our conversation of 20 years ago about the cantilevered coaster, but it beat expectations, which were low.
Yes.
And again, though, we didn't wait long. All of these rides, there were people and you could tell there were frustrated people in there going, man, I'm waiting in a lot of lines today. We had a nice way of getting around that. And that, I think, you have to take everything that we're saying with that grain of salt.
Yep.
Because it was, much easier and gave us a chance to really experience the park at a more leisurely pace instead of being frustrated by it. So, after that, it was time to go over to How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. I have seen the first How to Train Your Dragon movie, so I had some type of background on this, but I can't remember if you had seen it or not.
I've never seen them. I mean, I know in general it's about, a kid and the village doesn't like dragons and he finds a dragon and then everybody likes dragons. I don't know.
Exactly.
And then they have there's like the fat red dragon and there's the skinny black dragon and there's the stupid googly eyed dragon. They're all So, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Again, just like Magic Paris, it's just Viking Town is the theme, right? With dragons in it.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And boy, this land sells it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, the theming here, where you're the water that's in the center of this land, the buildings. There's a lot of forced perspective to give you a sense of scope and scale. This one, though, because the land doesn't have anything tall to keep you in, you can see outside this land.
That's true.
I mean, you can see the entirety of Stardust Racers from this land. You can see Orlando buildings from this land. That would be my only complaint about this. I don't know how you would get around that other than build a big wall that would have like trees painted on it or like a false forest. But but again, you're in the land. It's awesome.
Yeah. And there was just elements in there that were just beautiful. Like, I think it's one of the most beautiful of all the lands there. And characters walking around, like having conversations with you that were fun.
Everything was carved wood. I mean, made to look like carved wood that was dyed and painted. The lamps were colorful lanterns that had intricate metalwork with silhouettes of dragons and characters on the lanterns that are 8 feet up in the air hanging from posts. Like, it was unnecessary to do that, but somebody said, we have to do that. We want that level of detail in this land. It was lovely.
Yeah. And there were some things that we did not do in the land. We'll get to the things we did do in a second, but there was the fire drill, the water splash battle. That looked so fun. I would have loved to have done that. But again, we're looking at like 50-degree day. And, people were getting pretty wet down there on that. So, but again, just a lot of detail in that ride that was cool. There's the Viking training camp, like kind of a playground for kids. That was multi-story, and that looked fun to bring your kids to that. There was also, no one wanted to ride it, but the Dragon Racers Rally.
Are these an air race? Is that what you call these?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the air race attractions where you have your own individual car, and you've got the big paddles, kind of like a Flying Eagle sort of a situation. But this, up in the air, and this is the one that I was able to spin so successfully at Lost Island Amusement Park. So this is great. It's a fun ride, but this is a ride you can find anywhere. It was beautiful, well themed. Every inch of that thing was covered with theming. It wasn't like they just called it, oh, it's a dragon thing, and then they plunked it down. No, it looks like it's custom built for this land.
Yeah. I think there are two headliners in this land, though. One, the Untrainable Dragon Show, which unfortunately was down. We kept looking at the app all day, hoping to catch it because we heard such great things about it, but it never opened on the day that we were there.
Yeah, and that's too bad.
Yeah. The other ride, though, and this, EB, might have been my favorite ride in the entire park.
Whoa.
I loved Hiccup's wing gliders. It took me by surprise how much fun it was. We rode it in the morning and at night, so we got to see it like with the lights on too. Just a fun family coaster with multi-launches, but a lot of theming, a lot of story. It takes you all around the land. I loved it, man. It was a ton of fun, and even some animatronics in there too. Just cool stuff.
And it's got a cute little story to it, right? You are training to fly a dragon, but you're using this contraption to kind of get a sense of what it's like to. So that's a cool story for a roller coaster in a dragon land. We rode in the front the first time, which is the way to ride this, because then you really feel like, oh, I'm here right in this contraption flying my dragon. You don't have all of the other people with you. And just the view from that front car as you're swooping over the water. Again, there's the big lake that's in the center of this land. There's a tunnel element where you go under the bridge. It's just a super fun ride. And it goes past some really neat theming elements in the land that you cannot see from the ground, which is nice too, because you do not leave the park. You do not go and see concrete or regular grass. You stay zooming around the Isle of Berk, the whole ride.
Yeah, and there's on-ride audio and a section of the ride that actually, oh no, something wrong is happening, and it's just neat. It's a really fun ride that tells a really good story. I also appreciated that at this ride and others where they want you to use a locker, they make the locker system very easy, all done with facial recognition. So that's pretty cool. And then also where you put your stuff into one side of the locker, and then as you exit, you can retrieve stuff from the other side. So really, really cool. But one of my favorite portals, I think, just in terms of overall experience and just neat things that they put in there all around, and good character interaction is in there as well. Really cool.
Yes, we were able to walk up to the guy at the blacksmith shop and have a nice conversation with him. And not only great costuming and great portrayal of his character, but actual makeup and prosthetics. He had huge ears the size of your hand and a great big round chin. I mean, talk about a cartoon character come to life. That's exactly what this guy was. He was hilarious.
Yeah, he was great. And to his left, a snoring dragon animatronic that was there, right there. So just a lot of stuff to take in and see. So then we were ready for the final portal, Dark Universe. And I think this is
that you were looking forward to the most.
Yes. I think you too, right? I think all of us were probably really pumped to see this land because, of course, it had two of the attractions we wanted to ride most: Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, and Curse of the Werewolf.
Absolutely. I think that was, again, looking at how do you plan your day, this is the best ride in the park, I think. Is that even a disputed fact, Mike, that Monsters Unchained is the best ride in the park? I think everybody pretty much agrees on that.
I think so. Just because of what it does and they went out on a limb with this of actually making a pretty scary attraction, and the lead up to it is fantastic and tells a really good story. But it's not something that you would bring a little kid on. It's pretty scary. Like some of the animatronics, they have a werewolf at one point that's feasting on a corpse. That's not something that you see in most theme park attractions and stuff. So I like that they pushed the limits of this, not only thematically and story-wise, but with the motion of the vehicle. They did a really good job. And I appreciated that the Monsters ride was very different from Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. In fact, because it did not put you into screens, into those domes.
Right.
In fact, they got you very close to animatronics, but did not rely on the screens, like, of putting the ride in front of a screen and then having it do motion. You were just floating through this castle, and the screens were part of the background, which I really liked.
Integrated into the practical sets. It was not you turn a corner and there's a rectangle with a screen on it. I did think the black levels were turned up way too much on these screens, especially for a ride that's supposed to be in the dark catacombs under a castle. You could see the screens when they were supposed to be black. They weren't. They were gray.
Right.
That was kind of disappointing. I didn't know much about this ride. I had seen videos of the pre-show, which is super fun, where you've got Igor, explaining the ride vehicle itself with a little model of the ride vehicle.
Yeah.
And then you see Dr. Frankenstein herself with Frank the Monster giving their little talk to you about how she's resurrecting all of the monsters again. But that was the biggest surprise to me. So again, if you don't want spoilers, but the fact that all of the monsters were in this ride. I didn't know that going in. And I thought that was just so much fun. So the first one that you see as you enter into the catacombs is the Phantom of the Opera. He's there playing this wonderful practical pipe organ, and then he turns and you see his scarred face and he like growls at you. And like you said, Mike, you were close to these animatronics and they are scary. They're scary.
Yeah, and that was when I thought, like, oh man, this is a really cool ride because of how close those Kuka Robarms can get, not only to the Phantom of the Opera, but some of the other sets. To Frankenstein at one point where he's turning on the machine that traps Dracula. They could get you really close and do honest to God jump scares, which is very hard to do on an attraction. But they were really pulling it off one after another. At one point, the Kuka Robarm dips down and there's Creature from the Black Lagoon reaching up at you. Just stuff like that was really amazing. And again, YouTube videos do not do it justice. For me, this is a ride that I had high expectations, and they were met. It was a really great ride. Really cool.
The scale was something that I was confused by, right? Because these are all humanoid characters that should be as big as people, right? Dracula should be a person, and the Swamp Thing guy should be a person, and Wolfman should be the Wolfman sized. But you would see an animatronic of Dracula and he'd be 6 feet tall. And then you'd go around the corner and there'd be like a 12-foot tall Dracula. And then you'd go around another corner and he would be 6 feet tall again. But then you would see him on a screen and he would be like 10 feet tall. And we kept encountering that over and over again. Like that Phantom that you see at the beginning, he was huge. He wasn't the size of a person. And I guess, I don't know, that kind of took me out of it. But I think maybe that was, again, just to mess with your senses and to get some of those scares to be more effective.
Yeah.
Literally larger than life characters. But for me, it was a little bit confusing as far as the immersion is concerned.
Yeah. I wonder if they experimented with that and they said, okay, we're going to do a 5'11" Dracula. But when they put it into the ride, it's like, it's too small. It's not terrifying enough.
Well,
so they had to make it bigger.
A 6 foot tall Dracula that's 20 feet away, you might not even be able to find it. As you're zooming through this attraction. So they had to make him be 12 feet tall so that you could see him.
There's so much to see. I liked
moving quick.
Yeah. There was a part of the ride where you see the werewolf for the first time and he's like feasting on a corpse. And then he looks up and he's like, oh, fresh meat. And he jumps. Like it looks like the light goes off, but then they move to a screen and then you see him like chasing after you. And then you move to a different section and it like you see him move on the screen, but then they light up the animatronic that's right above you and it looks like he's appeared there. So there were all of these like similar scenes.
Little sequences that they had designed. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you see animatronic, screen, animatronic, and it just looked like all one motion. I like that. I thought that was really creative and something that they got better. It got better than what we saw however many years ago with the original Harry Potter ride with the Kuka arms. So I liked it, man. It was really fun. The lead up, the pre-shows, the walking through the mansion. What was neat is at the end of the night, We went back right before the park closed and rode it, and it was a walk-on. But we sort of slowly walked through the queue to see the entire thing, and it was great. There was just so much detail.
Yeah, same.
So much stuff to see.
Just like with you mentioned with Harry Potter, you don't do switchbacks. You go from room to room. Mm-hmm. The weenie at the end of this land is the castle, Darkmoor Manor, or whatever it's called. And you really do go into this house, and you go room to room to room in this house, into the laboratory, into these spaces. Tons of stuff to look at, tons of artifacts. Again, things that they didn't have to do, but just enhance the experience and the story itself so well. This was a fantastic attraction.
Yeah. So we also went on Curse of the Werewolf, which is a mock spinning roller coaster. What did you think about this? This is one that
it was a half a roller coaster, right? I mean, that's the thing. Is this thing? It was so incredibly short. Everybody, I feel like, had the same reaction with this. So you launch out of the station and you go through a shack of some sort, but because you're spinning, you can't really orient yourself and you don't know where to look in the shack. I guess somebody said that there is a werewolf in the rafters above the entrance and the exit of this. Maybe it's not a shack. Maybe it's more like a covered bridge kind of a situation. But there's a werewolf in the rafters on the entrance and the exit. You fly through, you pause, you roll back through, then you launch again and go back through. So you go through it 3 times.
Yeah.
I think I only saw the werewolf once on those 3 times, but I think you were supposed to see it every time.
Yeah, I saw it once for like a split second. Like just barely. And because the cars were spinning more than I thought they would. This ride was okay. I was glad to get the credit, but it's not something I would ever wait in line for.
No, and then and after you do that last launch, you go through a couple of maneuvers, and then you go to the unload station, which doesn't necessarily look like an unload station because everything's so well themed and beautiful. Yeah. And I was like, all right, now we're going to launch backwards.
Nope.
No.
They're like, time to get out. Yeah.
There's going to be a switch track now. Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the end of the ride, actually. And other people had the same exact reaction. They thought we were in a show building and something was going to happen, and then we were going to continue on the ride. What's the runtime on that ride? I'm going to look that up because I don't know if it broke a minute.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, whereas so many of the other rides had great stories and told it while you were waiting, you figured out what was happening. Like, I'm not 100% sure what the story was here. I guess that we were all turning into the wolf. And that's what the spinning was and the madness and stuff. I guess that's what it was, but
I didn't get that.
Not fantastic. I mean, not horrible. Not the worst roller coaster I've ever been on, but again, if time is of the essence in this park and you're going to wait 90 minutes to 2 hours, I think there are other things that take priority in the park for sure. Yeah. Even a drink in the Burning Blade Tavern, which we'll talk about here in a second. Like I enjoyed that a little more hanging out with you guys, having a drink there than I did riding that roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm not fighting the ride time, but it must have been it's nothing.
I can't imagine. Maybe RCDB has it, but I can't imagine it was more than. It couldn't have been more than 2 minutes, but maybe it was 90 seconds.
This says over 2 minutes of sheer thrill racing through a dark, foreboding shed and mysterious figures clawing ever so near. That's what Epic Universe says. Yeah, I don't think.
I'll give him. I mean, maybe it was 2 minutes, but yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like it. That's for sure.
Well, I guess because you do the pause and you roll back a couple of times, but
yeah. What did you think of the land overall, though? Like, I thought it was fun that we saw the Invisible Man and Tom from Louisville.
Got to talk with him. And I would not have guessed that would be the Invisible Man's voice or character in any way, shape, or form. I'm assuming there's an old movie from the 30s or something that he's in. But he was like a demented Joker type of. He was like, that's what I like to do. I'm invisible. Fashionista. Yes, I am.
Yeah, he had that shrill laugh. He was like, very weird.
Very odd. But yes, and he was like in his smoking jacket and wrapped up in bandages with his glasses on. And, very interactive. I was disappointed we didn't see Igor. That's really who I was there to see. But that was great to see him as a walk-around character. I thought the land was great. I mean, it's spooky and satisfyingly spooky. It's not very big. you really do have the one big shop. You've got some restrooms. You've got the place where the Invisible Man was hanging out, which is kind of like, I suppose that front section is supposed to be the town.
Yes, right.
Before you get to Darkmoor Castle. And then you go over and you've got the outdoors of, I guess it's supposed to be like some sort of, can we say gypsy camp? Is that a thing? Do we say that anymore?
I think you could say that. I think
okay.
That's right.
And that's where Kurt the Werewolf is. And then back in the back of the park, unmarked, just a couple of doors underneath a windmill, is the Burning Blade Tavern. But it's not very big. Yes. It's a small land.
No. And I was expecting the whole Darkmoor to be bigger. I really enjoyed the Burning Blade Tavern. I like that when we opened those doors. Well, first, as we walked up to it, the blades just exploded into flame, which was kind of cool.
So there is a big windmill that sits on top of this of this, and yes, on a timer, the blades that are spinning on this windmill light up with flames, real flames.
Yep.
Really cool.
Just like in the movie Frankenstein. And so we opened the big wooden doors, perfectly themed, and inside was, the bar wench who had a very huge scar on her face. But it turned out she was the head of the monster hunters.
Right.
And told us if we wanted to, have a seat at the bar, we had to pass a test.
Prove our monster medal or whatever it was, right?
Yes. So she was asking us questions about the land, and it was fun. She was really good. She was really fast, a good ad-libber, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, monster trivia for 6 people. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so that was great, but I enjoyed that. They had all different types of drinks in there. I bought a drink that was actually served in like a laboratory beaker, and it was green. And here's the fun part, is that it's non-alcoholic, but they allow you to buy a shot of rum or vodka or whatever and pour it in. In fact, the lady said, you can do your own experiment with this, so that was cool. I still don't know to this day what made the green liquid like shimmery. There was some type of glitter in it or something. I don't know.
It was like, I don't know if your kids are crafty, Mike, but you know that glitter glue?
Yes.
It looks like that Elmer's silver glue. That's kind of like like a magic putty that has that shimmery feel to it, that shimmery look. That's exactly what it was like inside your drink, and you're drinking it. It's like, microplastics, delicious.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It was weird. So here is the
there's your
thing. Yeah, there it is.
Erlenmeyer flask, I believe that is.
Yeah, so that's it. So it was a green liquid in there. So that's actually what it looked like. But it was a fun little souvenir to take home. So.
And that space was really well themed. It was really cool. It had monster artifacts all over the place and monster hunting weapons all over the place. It was small. How many people do you think could even fit in there, Mike? 20? 30?
20.
I mean, there was a handful of tables. There was the big wheel in the middle that was supposed to be connected up to the windmill. The ceiling of the room was fairly low. I would say it had like an 8-foot ceiling. And between the boards of the ceiling, you could see red coals.
Yes.
Because the roof is on fire.
Yeah.
Of this building
it was
that
so
we're
cool.
all in. Yeah.
It was really cool. It was a fun place just to like chill out, and we spent a good half hour in there just talking and hanging out. And
we had successfully completed the park at that point, so we felt that we had earned a nice break. We got our drinks. We debated and discussed, what are we going to do with our evening? And of course, what did we say, Mike? Oh, this has been a whole weekend of walking. Let's walk more and literally visit every part of the park again.
Yeah,
so
because we wanted to do it at night. And I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did walk around.
Yeah, so we went back to Berk and we rode the roller coaster in the dark. We went back to Mario Land and saw it in the dark.
Yeah, we ate there too. We ate
and then we got our dinner at the Toadstool Cafe, which was delicious and super fun. And then we went back to Harry Potter and we visited another establishment there, the bar Moonshine, which is down a little alleyway of one of those Parisian streets.
Yeah, and this is a place, actually, I have my glass for that, too. So here's my bar Moonshine glass. I got the Low Blaster, which had absinthe in it. And but they were fun. They were like, okay, like I'm going to pour this magical potion in, and it might make you invisible. That was kind of fun. They had an old-fashioned there as well, but it was actually real drinks, like real mixed drinks. They weren't like just pouring it out of a big container. Like they were actually mixing with, real bourbon and stuff. So... but what was great is at that time of the night, I don't know if it was like 45 minutes before the park closed, people had left. So we had this whole square in the Harry Potter land of Paris to ourselves. And our friend who was there with us had a wand. And so we were actually getting to try all the different spells and the windows and stuff. So that was really cool. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be in that land with the crowd really cleared out, especially in that corner that we were in. And we got to go into the wand shop, and there was a character that came over to us and was talking to us about the wand shop.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great place to end the night. That was the end of the night, I think.
Yeah. Well, we went back and rode Monsters Unchained one more time.
Oh, that's right. We looked at our watch and we saw that we had about 15 or 20 minutes, and we were like, let's go get it. And that's when we went back over. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, and the Celestial Gardens was beautiful at night, lit up. The fountains, they're just all around. Like the whole park was really, really pretty at night. And just it was fun to see, and I love seeing Super Mario World, Super Nintendo World at night.
Yeah,
you said that park would pop at night, and it did. Just really cool. So like it's definitely a park. If you go to Epic Universe, you got to get there in the morning. Make sure you pace yourself. Get on what you can, but make sure you stay there for nighttime because it's a completely different park once the lights go down, or the sun goes down.
Yep, and another big shout out and thanks to our host who helped us to get into the park and showed us around, and so much knowledge about the park too, pointing out so many things. It was just so much fun to be there with somebody from the park who was a part of making that park come to be, which is so cool.
Yes, and it was so great. So thank you so much for that. It was so great, so fun to hang out with him and the rest of the guys. It was just a great day, and I'm with Tom from Louisville. One of my favorite park days ever.
I think so. I do think so. Yep.
It's so rare to experience a park for a first time. Like that does not happen often where you go in and you're like, everything I'm going to do today is the first time. So I like that. And again, we got lucky. We got lucky not only with the express passes, but that for the most part, everything was operating.
And there were a couple of things, right? Like a couple of animatronics weren't working. A couple of but all the rides except Stardust Racers and the one show, which is, again, looking at the track record of the park, that's a pretty good day for operation.
It's a pretty good day. I was seeing somebody complaining today as we were recording the show that, they were saying, I've been here 5 hours and 4 of the rides are down and I paid for express. And
there have been times that all of the main attractions in each of the portals has been down simultaneously. Yeah. So we got very lucky. So we saw the park on a really good day with a really good circumstance. So that I think is, as you hear us, give a glowing review of the park. I said it at the beginning. We saw the park in the best way possible. So worst day ever, Stardust Racers.
Yeah, I know that was a bummer. But like I said, and I think everybody laughed when I said it. I said it's always good to leave one thing that you didn't ride at the park so you can come back and check it out. So I don't know when that's going to be, though. I guess it's got to be after April 5th. Don't plan on going there before then if you want to ride that ride. So we shall see. Yeah. I also love the dude. There's some dude on Twitter who was like, I heard they're going to have to tear the whole thing down. So, yeah.
No.
There's a guy out there saying that. So.
But we might go down there when they build the first expansion. I mean, that certainly is. And I was talking about those sub portals. It was pointed out to us the spot that's reserved for a sub portal in a couple of those lands. So we know those expansions are coming. Our host pointed that out to us. So
yeah. Is there any chance IAPA does like their party at Epic Universe? Have they done one of those yet?
Why not?
That would be fun.
Why not?
That could be the time you and I go back and get our Epic or get our Stardust Racers credit. Yeah,
they better have that roller coaster running for IAPA. For sure.
When that crowd shows up. So, so next week we will talk about our final day. In Orlando. We had a chance to head with Eric to Epcot and Magic Kingdom, and we got a couple of new credits there and a lot of great stories about that day. That was another day from morning till late night. And we'll tell you all about that next week. That's the fourth and final day of our trip to Orlando.
Some expectations for some new rides at Epcot and Magic Kingdom. So that's going to be a fun episode of Coaster Radio. That's next week. Week after that, Mike, listener questions. You guys are listening to us and you probably are screaming in your cars at how wrong we are about all of these things. So put your frustrations in the form of a question and send them to us at Coaster Radio or feedback at Coaster Radio. We'll do a listener questions show in 2 weeks.
It's fun. Hey, the questions can be about anything. Theme parks.
Why are you an idiot?
Yeah, it can be that too. We'll answer them all. as we always do. A lot of fun.
That's right.
A lot of fun.
All right. Let's say thanks to everybody who supports the show. Mike got us down to Florida, makes the show possible week after week for 21 years doing this podcast. Go to patreon.com/Coaster Radio. Support the show for $1, $5, $10, $20. We say your name on the show. Let's say thanks to Alex Payne, Brian Wackler, Chris Rankin, Cincinnati Nick the Sweatshirt Guy, our friends at Club Z, Two Bearded Coaster Chris's, CM Venom, Colton Toms, Dino Grace, John Brody, John Brown, and Josh Combs.
Also, Justin Padilla, Karen and Lee Howren, Kevin Wilson, Kyle Kiefer, our friends at Made to Thrill, Matt Walker, Mike Baer, Nick from Paris, Paulo de los Reyes, Patrick Steinman, Rich Barber, Rick Burnley, Shane Mankiewicz, Tom from Louisville, and Zachary Carpenter.
Also, our friend Kyle Lindner Design Company, specializing in branding, illustration, and small batch custom apparel. You can find them on Instagram at Lindner_design. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting the show.
Yes, thank you guys, and we will see you back here next week.
You've been listening to Coaster Radio, the original theme park podcast. To learn more about the show and hear hundreds of episodes from the archives, visit our website at coasterradio.com. This is your announcer, Neil Patrick Harris. Thanks for listening. Peace out, suckers. Coaster Radio is a production of Lift Hill Media, LLC. Audio and video from this program may not be broadcast, edited, or reproduced without our express written permission. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. This was all done in one breath.